Chapter 4 Froze Up Southern Folks. Because she'd been born in Alabama, Mama didn't really know anything about the cold. Even though she'd lived in Flint for 15 years, she still thought cold weather could kill you in a flash. That's why me and Joey were the warmest kids at Clark Elementary School. Mama wouldn't let us go out on a cold winter day unless we were wearing a couple of t-shirts, a couple of sweaters, a couple of jackets, and a couple of coats, plus gigantic snow pants that hung on your shoulders by suspenders, plus socks, and big black shiny rubber boots that closed with 5 metal buckles. We wore so many clothes that when we pulled our final coat on, we could barely bend our arms. We wore so many clothes that when Byron wasn't around, the other kids said stuff like, "Here come some of them weird Watsons doing their mummy imitations." But the worst part of this was having to take all this stuff off once we got to school. It was my job to make sure Joey got out of her coats and things okay. So after I took off my junk, I went down to the kindergarten and started working on hers. Joey usually looked like a little zombie while I peeled the coats and jackets off of her. She got so hot inside all this stuff that when I finally got down to the last layer, she'd be soaking wet and kind of drowsy looking. I took her hood off and unwrapped the last scarf that was around her head. When that last scarf came off, there was always a real nice smell, like Joey was a little oven, and inside all these clothes, she'd baked up her own special perfume, with the smell of shampoo and soap and the pomade Mom put in her hair. That was the only part I didn't mind. I loved sticking my nose right on top of Joey's head and smelling all those nice things baked together. Mama always kept a little towel in Joey's last jacket pocket so I could make sure her face and hair were dry. "Kenny," she said one time while I wiped the sweat from her forehead and hair, "can't you do something to stop Mommy from making us get so hot?" "I tried, Joey. Mama thinks she's protecting us from the cold." I started trying to get Joey's shoes out of her boots. Whoever invented these boots should be shot, because once the boots got a hold of your shoes, they wouldn't let them go for anything. I pulled off everything off of Joey's foot and gave her the boot while I reached my hand inside to tug on the shoe. We pulled and pulled, but it seemed like the harder we pulled, the harder the boot sucked the shoe back in. "Maybe Byron'll help make Mommy stop if we let him know how hot we get." Joey was too young to understand that Byron didn't care about anything but himself. He was kind of nice to her, though, and didn't treat her like he treated me and other kids. We tugged and tugged, and the shoes started coming out an inch at a time. Finally, it made that funny sound like water going down the drain and slid out of the boot. Phew! I tied Joey's shoes back on her feet and used her towel to wipe my own forehead. I couldn't wait until I was old enough to not listen to what Mama told me to. The next morning, Mama was burying Joey in all her clothes again. Joey was doing the usual whining and complaining. "Mommy, can't I just wear one jacket? I get too hot. And besides, when I wear all this junk, I'm the laughing stock of the morning kindergarten." Mama's hand came up to cover her mouth, but she got serious when she said, "Joey, I don't want you to be the laughing stock, but I don't want you catching a cold. You've got to keep bundled out there. It's colder than you think. This cold is very dangerous. People die in it all the time." Joey pouted and said, "Well, if they die in it all the time, how come we don't see any frozen people when we go to school?" Mama gave Joey a funny look and pulled her hood over her head. "Sweetheart, do what Mommy says. It's better to be too warm than too cold." Joey whined a little more while Mama put her boots on her. Me and Byron went outside and waited on the porch. He was trying to look cool, but I said to him anyway, "Man, I hate taking all that stuff off of Joy when we get to school. She whines and cries the whole time." I stood next to him and looked at him sideways. "Seems to me like you got a real bad memory. Who you think took all that stuff off of your little behind all these years? What goes around, goes around. I was surprised he'd said anything, since Byron thought it was not cool to answer stuff when someone younger than you said it. But he wasn't being completely nice. While I was talking, he kept moving around me, so if I wanted to look at him sideways, I'd have to move too. It must have looked like we were doing some kind of square dance while we were moving around like one foot was nailed to the porch. Yeah, but I didn't cry and whine. Byron kept circling me and put his hand behind his ear. What? I know you didn't say what I think you said. You were the cryingest little clown there ever was. With Byron walking around me like that, we must have looked like we were in the Wild West. And I was a wagon train, and Byron was the Indian circling, waiting to attack. Byron changed directions and started going around the other way, and I acted like my other foot was nailed to the porch and started following him sideways that way. I knew there wasn't much point saying a whole bunch more to him, so I said mostly to myself, "Man, I hate listening to Joy whining when I take all that junk off of her at school." "Well, listen here," he said. "I'ma help you out." I know it's kind of stupid to think that someone who's teasing you by going around in circles is going to help you out, but I said anyway. "How?" He kept going round and round me. I bet we look like the solar system, with me being the sun and Byron being the orbiting Earth. "I'll talk to Joey, you know, kind of put her mind at ease." This didn't sound too good, and I got sick of By teasing me, so I let that Earth orbit by itself. Joey finally came out, and the three of us walked toward the bus stop. Byron started right in. "Baby sis, I know you don't like wearing all them clothes, right?" "Right, Byron. They get too hot." "Yeah, I'm hip. But you know there's a good reason why you gotta have all that stuff on." "Why? Only me and Kenny wear this much junk." "Yeah, but what you don't know is that Mama's only doing what's right. There's something she don't want you to know yet. But I know you some real mature kids, so I'ma tell you anyway." "Okay, tell us." I wanted to know too. Even though I was in the 4th grade, I fell for a lot of the stuff Byron came up with. He made everything seem real interesting and important. "All right, but when Mama finally do tell you guys this stuff, you gotta act like you surprised. Deal?" Both me and Joey said, "Deal!" Byron looked around to make sure no one was listening and then said, "Have you ever noticed early in the morning, some of the time you wake up and you hear garbage trucks?" "Yeah." "And have you noticed how when you get up and go to school you almost never see them trucks?" "Yeah." "And have you ever noticed how when you don't see one of them trucks, it got a real big door in the back of that opens and shuts so you can't see what's inside?" "Yeah." "And have you noticed how that door is too big for even the biggest garbage can in the world?" "Yeah." "And Joey, did you notice how Mama got kind of nervous and didn't answer your question about not seeing people being froze up on the street?" "Yeah." Byron looked around and made us get real close to him. "Okay, now this is the part you're going to have to look surprised at when Mama tells you about it. But before I tell you, you're going to have to practice acting surprised so I don't get in trouble for letting you know, okay?" "Yeah." "Kenny, you first." I made my eyes get real big and threw my mouth open. Not bad, but try it with some sound. I made my eyes get real big, threw my mouth open, and said, "What the?" "Perfect. Baby sis, your turn." Joey did exactly what I did. "That's good, but I think we need some action. Do all that stuff and throw your arms out like you just heard some real shocking stuff." We did. "Cool. Now do it together 3 times. Go." Me and Joey did it 3 times. Then Byron said, "Listen real careful." He looked around to make sure the coast was clear. "There's a good reason Mama makes you wear all them clothes, and it's got to do with them big doors on the back of the garbage trucks. Dig?" Me and Joey nodded our heads the best we could think of with all those clothes on. "You see, some of them trucks ain't real garbage trucks at all. Joey, you was right. Every cold morning like this, the street is full of dead, froze people. Some of the time they freeze so quick, they don't even fall down. They just stand there froze solid." Joey was believing every word. I wasn't too sure. But you notice that not everyone gets froze like that. It's just them folks from down south who got that thin down home blood who freeze so quick. And you know Mama ain't from Flint. She grew up in Alabama, and that means half of y'all's blood is real thin. So Mama's worried that one morning it's going to be cold enough to freeze you all. That's where them fake garbage trucks come in. Every morning they go round picking the froze folks off the street. And they need them big doors because someone who got froze don't bend in the middle and they won't fit in no regular ambulance. Joey looked around like she was hypnotized. Her mouth was open and her eyes were bugging. But both of you gotta swear never ever to try and look in back of one of them trucks. I did it once, and I'ma tell you, there ain't nothing more horrible than seeing 100 of them folks, 100 of dead, froze-up Southern folks crammed up inside a garbage truck. It's a sight that I'ma carry to my grave with me. So, Joey, don't be crying and whining when you put all them clothes on. It'll break my heart to see my own family froze solid so they get thrown in one of them fake garbage trucks. Joey started crying. Byron told me, "Give my regards to Clark Point, Dexter," and left me there to wipe Joetta's tears. I've got to admit, Joey didn't do any more whining when she had to get into her winter clothes. The only good thing about Mama being afraid of the cold was that we were the only kids at Clark who got to wear real leather gloves. Most of the other kids had to wear cheap plastic mittens that would start to crack up after 2 or 3 snowball fights, or one real cold day. Some of them had to wear socks on their hands, and some of them just had to scrunch up their arms in the sleeves of their jackets. But Mama made sure we got real leather gloves with real rabbit's fur on the inside of them. And I'm not bragging, but we got to go through 2 pairs a year each. At the end of every winter, Mama and Dad would go downtown to Montgomery Ward's when gloves were going on sale and buy 6 pairs for us kids. The only problem with having 2 pairs of gloves was that if you lost one pair, you had to wear the next pair kindergarten style. That meant Mama would run a string through the sleeves of your coat and tie 2 safety pins on the ends of the string. Then she'd pin your gloves to the string, and it was impossible to lose the gloves, because every time you took them off, they'd just hang from your coat. I pulled a trick on Mama to help Rufus. For a while, I shared my first pair of gloves with him. I'd keep the right-hand glove, and he'd keep the left-hand one. That way, we could both get in snowball fights. And instead of Rufus scrunching both of his hands up in his sleeves, I'd scrunch one of mine, and he'd scrunch one of his. This was okay for a while, but then I figured out that if I told Mama I lost my first pair, she'd give me the second pair. And me and Rufus each would have a full pair of gloves. It worked! Mama put the second pair on my coat kindergarten style and warned me, "This is the last one, Kenny. After this, you won't have anything for the rest of the year, so be very careful." I just broke out laughing when she held me by the arms and looked right in my eyes and said, "Do you know what frostbite will do to you?" "Yes, Mama." I looked sad on the outside, but on the inside, I was feeling great. I gave Rufus the right-hand glove and everything was fine for about a week. That's when my second pair of gloves, kindergarten string, safety pins and all, disappeared out of the closet at school. Rufus had to let me borrow one of my old gloves back, and we were back to scrunching one hand each up in our coat sleeves. But since Rufus was now the official owner of the gloves, he got to keep the right-hand one, and I had to wear the left-hand one. 2 days later, Larry Dunn stopped wearing socks on his hands and started wearing a pair of real leather gloves with real rabbit fur on the inside of them. The only difference between my old gloves and Larry's new ones was that mine had been brown and Larry's were black. Me and Rufus found this out when Larry ran up behind us and said, "This is Friday, y'all. Time to do the laundry. Who's gonna be first? Country Cornflake? Cockeyed Kenny?" He didn't wait for us to make up our minds and grabbed me first. He said to Rufus, "If you ain't run away during Cockeye's wash, I'ma hunt you down and hurt you bad, boy. This ain't gonna take but a minute, so just stick around." Rufus stood there looking worried. Okay, guys, look for part 2. Look for part 2.